The oldest civilization on Earth has been hiding in the DNA. 4 separate populations, each arriving thousands of years apart together. They built everything. At its peak, the Indus Valley Civilization was larger than Egypt and Mesopotamia combined. Almost nobody in a Western education learned this story. Ancient DNA is now telling it for the first time. 60,000 years of population history. One civilization that should be in every textbook. The science is recent. The first ancient Indian genomes were sequenced only in the last decade. In 2019, David Reich's lab published the largest ancient DNA study of South Asia ever conducted. That paper rewrote India's prehistory completely, and barely anyone outside genetics read it. The story starts 60,000 years ago with the first people who walked into India, 4 populations, each arriving thousands of years apart, each leaving a permanent mark on the subcontinent. The AAZ, ancient ancestral South Indians, the first people, they arrived approximately 60,000 years ago along a southern coastal route from Africa. The Andaman Islanders today carry the clearest surviving trace of this founding population. They were the only humans in India for 50,000 years, half of recorded human history, alone on a continent. Today, their ancestry is still detectable in every Indian person on Earth. They hunted, fished, and spread across the entire subcontinent over tens of thousands of years. Stone tools from that era appear at sites from Tamil Nadu to Kashmir. The entire subcontinent was theirs. Then, around 10,000 years ago, a new population arrived from the northwest, and everything began to change. Iranian farmers from the Zagros Highlands, they had been practicing agriculture for 2,000 years before they entered India. They entered through what is now Baluchistan, carrying wheat, barley, and sheep. The site of Mehrgarh shows farming beginning in the subcontinent around 7000 BCE. Ancient DNA from Mehrgarh confirmed. These early South Asian farmers had Iranian farmer ancestry as their dominant component. The Iranian farmers did not replace the Azai. They mixed with them. Something new emerged from that contact. The mixing took thousands of years. Gradual contact, gradual admixture. By 5,000 years ago, the descendants of both groups had combined into one population, a uniquely South Asian genetic profile. This mixed population built the Indus Valley Civilization, not invaders, a new people forged from centuries of contact. Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro were their cities. At its peak, around 2500 BCE, the Indus Valley Civilization housed 10% of the world's population, covered sewage drainage, standardized weights, grid-planned streets, technologies that Europe would not develop for another 3,000 years. The civilization that built this had no name for itself in the Western record. For generations, historians barely discussed it. The Great Bath at Mohenjo-Daro is the world's earliest known public water tank. Indus Valley merchants were trading with Mesopotamia. Their seals have been found at Ur. Their writing system has never been deciphered. Their language died with them. We cannot read a single word they wrote. Everything we know comes from archaeology and their DNA. The skeletons show a population that was relatively healthy. Low rates of violence, low rates of severe malnutrition. They buried their dead. They built wells. They planned cities. The Reich's 2019 paper used ancient DNA from Indus Valley periphery sites as the best available proxy for the core civilization population. Their direct DNA could not be sequenced. Subcontinent heat destroys ancient DNA. But their relatives speak for them. Most South Asian ancient bones yield no recoverable DNA at all. The exceptions are in Baluchistan and the cooler highlands, and one critical site, Rakhigarhi. Rakhigarhi, the largest Indus Valley site ever found, larger than Mohenjo-Daro. In 2019, researchers extracted DNA from a single Rakhigarhi skeleton. The result was immediate and controversial. No step ancestry, no Iranian farmer ancestry at levels that would indicate a recent incursion. The Indus Valley builders were not Aryan invaders, not Central Asian herders. They were indigenous to South Asia. This result directly challenged the long-standing Aryan invasion theory, the idea that the civilization was built by Central Asian migrants. The Aryan invasion theory was proposed in the 19th century by European linguists. It was always a linguistic argument, not a genetic one, and genetics was never consulted until now. The ancient DNA does not support an Aryan invasion. It supports something more complicated and more interesting, because the steppe people did come to India, just not to build the civilization. civilization. They came later to reshape it. Around 2000 BCE, steppe herders related to the Yamnaya and Sintashta cultures began moving southeast through Central Asia, through the Bactria-Margiana archaeological complex, into northwestern India. The genomic record shows the steppe arrival exactly before 2000 BCE, no steppe ancestry. After, unmistakable. They did not arrive to empty land. The Indus Valley civilization was already there, already declining. The Indus Valley civilization had already begun collapsing before the steppe populations arrived. Climate change, a prolonged drought that began around 2200 BCE, the same climate event that may have ended civilizations in Egypt and Mesopotamia simultaneously. The Saraswati River, known in later Vedic texts, dried up. The cities that depended on it were abandoned. When the steppe people arrived, the civilization was already fragmenting. They did not destroy it. They inherited ruins. There is a 300-year gap between the collapse and the genetic arrival. The steppe people could not have caused what was already over. The Indus populations did not disappear. They dispersed south and east into the Gangetic Plain and peninsular India. Their genetic legacy is universal across South Asia today. Every Indian genome carries their signature. The Indus Valley civilization did not end. It dissolved into the subcontinent. Its DNA is in every South Asian today. The steppe arrivals brought something the Indus civilization had never had: a fully formed language tradition. Vedic Sanskrit related to ancient Greek, Latin, and Old Iranian. It came with the steppe people. The Rig Veda was composed by people who were partly steppe in ancestry. Ancient DNA confirms the linguistic model entirely. The Rig Veda describes cattle herders, horses, and chariots, the material culture of steppe people. Spoke-wheeled chariots appear in the archaeological record of the steppe, then appear in India, then appear in the Rig Veda. Modern DNA shows the pattern clearly. Indo-Aryan language speakers carry more steppe ancestry than Dravidian speakers. Sanskrit came from the steppe. Tamil and Telugu came from the Indus Valley world. Two inheritances, one country. Southern India preserved more Indus Valley and AZ ancestry, less steppe. The north-south genetic gradient across India is one of the most clearly documented ancestry gradients in any modern population. The caste system is one of the oldest social structures still operating on Earth. Ancient DNA confirms it is genetically ancient. Major caste groups have been reproductively isolated for up to 70 generations. 70 generations of endogamy is visible in the genome. The caste system is not just social, it is genetic. Indian subpopulations show more internal genetic differentiation than the difference between some European nations. Two Indian castes from the same state can be genetically further apart than a German and a Greek. 2,000 years of marriage within one social group leaves a scar in the DNA. The caste system wrote it. The diversity is ancient. The isolation is ancient. Isolated marriage communities accumulate rare variants and lose others. Over 70 generations, that separation becomes measurable. 4 founding populations, all still detectable, all still proportionally distinct across different communities. The 4 population model for India is now scientifically established. AASI, Iranian farmers, steppe herders, Andamanese related. Every Indian person alive today is a mixture of those 4 populations. No other major population on Earth has 4 clearly defined founding ancestries at this scale of genetic diversity. India today is the world's most populous nation, 1,500,000,000 people. It is also among the most genetically diverse. That diversity is direct evidence of its layered prehistory. India did not have one origin. It had at least 4, and each layer left something behind. In a single museum case, you can see every layer, the visual story of 60,000 years. Each population brought something irreplaceable. Each layer still functions in modern India. Agriculture from the Iranian farmers, cities from the Indus world, language from the steppe, genetic foundation from the ASI. The wheat field in the Punjab carries a 10,000-year-old genetic story. The crops the Iranian farmers wrought are still the crops of the subcontinent. Nothing was lost. Everything was absorbed. That is the story ancient DNA tells about India. Accumulation without erasure. The work is still accelerating. New ancient Indian genomes are being sequenced every year. Major questions remain. The Indus Valley language is undeciphered. The precise timing of population contact events is still being refined. South Asian preservation problems mean every successful extraction is a scientific event. Ancient Indian genomes are extraordinarily rare. Each one rewrites the story. The Rakhigarhi genome changed the global understanding of the Aryan debate. One skeleton, one genome, 400 subsequent studies that built on its results. One preserved tooth from a field in Haryana rewrote the origin story of the second most popular, and this is still early. The ancient DNA of the Indian subcontinent is largely unsequenced. Europe has thousands of sequenced ancient genomes. South Asia has dozens. The imbalance is enormous. The most complex ancient population history on Earth is the least studied by ancient DNA. That gap is closing fast. Indian institutions are now building their own ancient DNA programs. Funding is increasing. The political significance of the results has driven investment from multiple directions. The results are politically sensitive in India. Ancient DNA touches identity, religion, caste, and the Aryan question simultaneously. The science does not take sides, but the findings land in a country with very old arguments about origin. The data challenges both the Aryan invasion narrative and the indigenous origin narrative in their extreme forms. There was no single origin for India, no single invader. The truth is more remarkable than either side ever claimed. The Indus Valley people built the first urban drainage system, the first standardized waste, the first public water infrastructure, proto-dentistry, cotton textiles, standardized trade weights. They were innovating when the rest of the world was still forming its first cities. This civilization was real, not mythological. Its people's DNA lives inside every person whose ancestors came from South Asia. 1,500,000,000 people, all carrying pieces of this story. The oldest layer of South Asian ancestry is 60,000 years old, still active, still present. If you are South Asian, you carry hunter-gatherer DNA from before Europe was populated. That is your genetic foundation. The story of India is not one civilization. It is the layering of at least four. AZ at 60,000 years, Iranian farmers at 10,000, Indus Valley civilization at 5,000, steppe herders at 2,000. Four populations, 60,000 years, 1,500,000,000 living people carrying all of it. Never once taught. The science will keep refining this. Every new ancient genome changes some part of the model. 500 new genomes in the next decade. That is the projection, each one a new chapter. The history never written in texts is being written now, by DNA from people who lived before writing existed. Rakhigarhi still holds most of its secrets. Less than 5% excavated. The city beneath the soil is still waiting. Ancient DNA turned 1% of one city into a scientific revolution. Imagine what the rest of it holds. That one genome, that one tooth in a field in Haryana. It rewrote the Aryan debate. It confirmed the indigenous origin of the Indus civilization. It changed Indian history. One genome from one site. In a country with thousands of ancient sites and 10 times Europe's population, the most populated place on Earth, the most ancient continuous human presence, the least explored ancient genome record. What we know is a point of light inside an enormous darkness. That darkness is being filled, one ancient genome at a time. Each result reframes South Asian history permanently. Every ancient Indian genome produced is a first. The field is still young. The revolution is still happening. This is the ancient history we rarely hear about. The story of a continuous human presence on Earth. They built cities before Rome existed, before Athens existed, before the first European written record. From ancient city to living genome, the pipeline of ancient DNA research made visible. They never disappeared. Their DNA never disappeared. It just took this long for science to read it. Four populations, 60,000 years, 1,500,000,000 people. This is the Genome Archive. The DNA history nobody talks about is the history that most needs to be told.